Russia-Ukraine news. By sending troops to Ukraine covertly, private Russian companies are able to circumvent sanctions. Several of Vladimir Putin's close associates' businesses allegedly take part in a secretive hiring program. It has been reported that a group of Russian billionaires have been using their companies to provide mercenaries to the regular Russian army for the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, despite the fact that some of these companies have managed to evade Western sanctions. According to a recent investigation by the nonprofit news organization iStories, businesses owned by several close associates of Vladimir Putin are involved in the purported clandestine recruitment scheme. It has been suggested that Putin ally and sanctioned tycoon Oleg Deripaska, who made headlines at the beginning of the full-scale invasion for appearing to speak out against it, is at the center of such a scheme. It has been reported by iStories that Deripaska's Rusal, the largest aluminum producer in Russia, is funding a volunteer battalion known as Sokol. Although the battalion is officially recognized as part of the Russian military, the volunteers receive compensation from both the Defense Ministry and an anonymous sponsor. We hire them the day before we sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense, then lay them off the day the contract is signed, and that gives us a legal basis for compensating them with war bonuses. An employee finder was heard saying, "It's such a scheme," according to iStories. According to the report, the recruiter did not identify the sponsor, but all of the contact information on the recruitment poster belonged to Rusal Management, a wholly owned subsidiary of Rusal. Reports claim that volunteers have privately discussed Deripaska's alleged involvement. One of them remarked that Deripaska sets up Sokol personnel in his private security companies. Rusal was released from sanctions in 2019 after its owner, Oleg Deripaska, reduced his stake in the company. Through his holdings in N+ Group, he still has some ownership in the business. As recently as last month, a European trade group stated that it had considered calling for sanctions on Russian aluminum, but now recommends avoiding any such sanctions on Rusal due to the company's extensive reach. According to iStories interviews with Rusal, the company does not actively seek out volunteers and has no idea why its contact information was made public. The report does not just single out Rusal for providing ammunition for the conflict in Ukraine. It also names Novatek, Russia's second-largest natural gas producer. U.S. sanctions prevent the company owned by Leonid Mikhelson and Putin ally Gennady Timchenko from obtaining any debt financing in the United States for more than 90 days. Private security firm iStories claims Novatek helped found and is completely dependent on for funding is actively seeking new employees. An anonymous volunteer claimed that representatives from Novatek and the security firm Bastion approached employees at their places of employment and recruited them. PIK Group, owned by Sergei Gordiev, and Mospromstroy, owned by EU-sanctioned oligarch Mikhail Gutseriev, have reportedly been tasked with enlisting new soldiers for the war. Numerous reports have surfaced about state-owned Russian companies being tasked with supplying new recruits, who are then given fake jobs before being sent to the battlefield as Moscow's nascent war machine continues to chug along.